This is Real Race Talk from Texas. It's the Revved Up Sports Show. Here's Bobby Chaffee and Rodney Rodriguez.
Not quite the ending of Martinsville yesterday afternoon. Not a stone cold.
I was waiting for the fight. I'm still waiting for the fight. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, no. Locked and loaded show. It is Texas Motor Speedway Race Week, everybody. But before we do that, Showtime Bobby Chaffee right here. The Iceman, Rodney Rodriguez. That's that man over there.
Hey, everybody.
And as much as we love Texas Motor Speedway Race Week, we do have to talk about one of the all-time great races in racing history. That'd be the All-American 400 in Nashville.
Man, Triple Crown right there. That's a huge one. And when we decided we're going to talk about that, we decided let's go to the top. Claire Formosa from Fairgrounds Speedway in Nashville, CEO, co-owner, VP. I think you do just a little bit of everything there, don't you, Claire?
I do. The only thing I haven't done yet is I haven't cleaned the bathrooms after a race. But other than that, I've got it all in the book.
Very, very nice. So I can only imagine. I know we talked a little bit yesterday. How's your Monday been? I think it's probably been just full of madness. I would venture to guess.
My days have been running together for about a week now. Have not really kept up with what day is what. I just know the days that I'm basically just counting down the days till we get closer. So,
yeah.
I was here all day yesterday. So, yeah, like I said, it's all pretty much just the same at this point to me.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Claire, talk about the difference. Is it the All-American 400? Is there completely more pressure? How does it vary for the preparation of that race versus just a regular weekend of speed over there at the Fairgrounds?
The All-American 400, I have always referred to this race as my big baby.
Nice.
I take so much pride in this event. I think really where the big thing that stands different is for sure going to be the super late models coming in. They only get to come in at most twice a year.
Yeah.
They come in sometimes in the spring. And then, of course, we always bring them in for the All-American 400. So with that event, you're bringing in another division. You're bringing in 400 more laps of racing. You're bringing in drivers from all across the country that don't really know how our weekly program works. They don't know a lot of our staff. But, you just bring in so many different people and you bring in so much more media and, big wig people. So,
yeah.
Our normal shows are a one-day deal. The All-American 400 is a 4-day deal. So, it takes a lot more manpower, a lot more preparation. There's a lot of things that go into this event that don't go into our normal show.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Claire, we'll talk about this year's race coming up and some of the guys that are. We'll talk about driver entries here in just a little bit. But this race, you dated back to 1981, and when you really look at this is one of those mainstays where you've had guys like Butch Lindley, you've had Darrell Waltrip, Rusty Wallace. I mean the modern day guys with Bubba Pollard. So many people have won this race. Our own Donnie Wilson used to be at a Texas racer here. Just this is really one of those. This is a big event.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Nashville in itself has so much history behind it. We're right now we're the oldest running short track in America. So
Love
that
that
right there speaks for itself. And you just think of the names that have been on this track, that have raced on this track. You think of the people who have won at this track that are now at cup level. So the history of the facility is enough in itself. But then you start talking about the All-American 400 and you think of the people who have, won this race. We haven't been able to have this race in over a year, but you just think, John Hunter Nemechek, Chase Elliott, Ross Kenseth, Bubba Pollard, Donnie Wilson, that right there, just the last 10 years that we've been here, to see the people who have taken home that guitar and to see where they are now, it's just unbelievable.
I love that.
So talk about your relationship with the Speedway. Obviously, you've got a long history there. So how did you get to where you're at? I know you had family involved in there and all of that. So tell people that story that you have right now.
So I've been here since day one of my life. My grandfather actually raced here back before my dad was born, and so my dad and my uncles have grown up here their entire life. And, growing up, every weekend we were here, watching my uncle or my dad or my cousin race. So, I've been here my entire life, but the last 9 years we've been on the other side of the fence. Never in a million years did I ever dream that, we would be on this side. But it's funny because I catch myself now when I go to other tracks and watch races, I'm paying attention to the things that I would have never paid attention to.
Yeah.
What do they do during
happens,
their intermission? What kind of music do they play? What kind of prices do they have at the concession stand? So, it's completely different, but I can tell you, I've met a lot of amazing people along the way as being the promoter of this facility, and it's not easy. A lot of people think after the race is over that I'll just be done and I won't have anything else to do in April.
That you are doing that there, because here in Texas, on the asphalt side, we have one track left, and it's being run by a very powerful female, and that's great. And we have another dirt track that's come back to life, and it's being run by a very powerful female, and that's super awesome to see that. Speak to that. You're in charge there. Do you get any resistance at times?
It is, and I'll be honest with you, it's tough. When we became the promoters of this facility, I was only 19 years old.
My goodness. Wow.
So
you poor thing.
try being a female in a man dominant sport, and on top of that, being a young female. So it's definitely had its trials, but sometimes it plays to my benefit, and sometimes it definitely does not. I'm definitely not as hot-headed as my dad, so I have a much better way of communicating with the drivers, and the fans, and even my employees, but at the same time, they don't, when it's in the heat of the moment, they don't take you seriously, because I'm a female and I don't know what I'm talking about. And
of course.
When it comes to the logistics side of things, I've got it under control. Now, you want to start talking about tech and rule changes and all that, I'm out. Yeah. I'm completely out. I'll type the rules for you and I'll send out the email blast, but I don't want to know nothing else.
That's exactly right. Delegate that stuff to someone else. So I got to ask you, and again, we'll get to the AA 400 here at some point, but so have you been behind the wheel? I mean, a lot of folks, they end up running a racetrack. They drove. So have you actually raced?
I haven't.
Nice. I like that.
When I was like 16, I begged Dad to put me in a race car, and he just told me, he was like, "You're going to be a lady. You're not going to drive a race car." He said, if someone wrecks you, nice. I will end up in prison. And he said, he straight up told me no. And so, I was a little tomboy back then, but now I just have no interest in it. Every now and then I'll hop in the 2-seater with him or something like that, but I've really never had an interest in driving a race car. So,
smart lady right there.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, very nice.
So, how many times does your dad tap you on the shoulder and be like, "Well, if I was running it, I'd do X"? Like, does that happen a whole lot? Does that make Thanksgiving and Christmas uncomfortable sometimes?
I'll be honest with you. When we took over and got the long-term lease, me and Dad became partners. Up until that point, Dad was the boss. Even though I still pretty much ran the show, Dad was still the boss. But legally, on paper, when we took over the 5-year lease, we became 50-50 partners. And so he doesn't toss the whole "I'm the boss" around as much, but every now and then he will.
Yeah.
And I'll just kind of look at him and raise my eyebrow at him and go, "Okay, well then I tell you what, you can do what I do and I'll do what you do."
There it is.
Right now I'm actually sitting up in my office and he's down on the track talking to all the drivers that are testing here tonight, and I've got about 30 people sitting in the suite waiting on me for a staff meeting that he has no idea about. So,
No
I
doubt.
let him take the credit. I love him. This is what he does. And, he definitely gives me credit when I want it, but I'm not about the show or, taking all the spotlight away. I just would rather do a good job and see it pay off in the long run.
Yeah, no doubt. So you mentioned that. I know we talked about it yesterday. You've got a meeting, and we appreciate the time. Claire Formosa with us here. We're talking about the All-American 400 over at Nashville at the Fairgrounds. So let's break this down. You got 3 past winners in there. Bubba won the last one that you actually had. You got Donnie.
No, Donnie won the last one.
Oh, Donnie, that's right. Donnie,
Yeah.
Bubba, and then Johnny Von Dorn is there. So you've got all these guys, and you keep adding folks. Super lates, you've got a pack of really good guys. Pro lates, you got a bunch of guys. Let's break it all down. Your thoughts leading into the weekend.
I'm going to tell you, the car count this year has absolutely blown me away. I have said it for 2 weeks. I'm like, we're done. We're not going to get any more entries. What we've got is what we've got. And then just yesterday, I came in and checked my email, and I had the entry from Mike Millar, which had no idea who the guy was, and reached out to Bob Dillner and a couple other guys, and they were like, that's the 2018 World Outlaws champion. I'm like,
nice.
Oh. But I'll tell you what, I have not been able to do this by myself. I've got to give credit where credit's due. I've got a lot of really awesome people that have gotten behind me this year and have helped me promote this race and bring drivers, from all across the country. My hats are off to Bob Dillner at 251. He has really taken this event under his wing and helped me this year. Bubba Pollard has definitely been a huge advocate. Willie Allen, one of, my locals here, one of my track champions here. All the way down to Cody Glick, which is someone, he runs Rowdy Manufacturing. Donnie Wilson, all these guys have really stepped up and helped, they're bringing all the recognition back to this event and encouraging these drivers to come out and come. So, I don't have 70 super late models entered, but
No.
I can tell you one thing. The 33 that we have as of today that are entered, I guarantee you there's 25 that could win at any point in time. So, it's definitely going to be a competitive field, which I would rather have competitiveness versus, a huge car count.
Yeah. I got to tell you, that sound behind you is driving
Sounds
me
great.
crazy.
We don't get to hear that sound out here a whole lot.
No, we don't hear. And your local classes are running as well. So not to be outdone by everything else, the local guys get to be in the spotlight as well.
Yes, they do. And that's one of the cool things that my local guys get to enjoy, along with my pro late model locals, is, they get to be a part of a national event. They're competing for a guitar just like the super late model guys are. It's the final race of the year. It's the final points race of the year. So it's definitely big for them. And you know what? They deserve it because they support me week in and week out. They sit in the rain with me.
Yep.
They deal with my schedule changes. They deal with any type of mishaps that could happen on race day. So, they are the true heroes. Just like this guy that's out on the track right now, Bubba Pollard, he's got about 15 minutes left of his test today, and he's done. So, these are the guys that all the credit is due to. We're just back here kind of steering the ship.
Absolutely.
So Claire, I'm looking at the schedule. There's 2 things that I noticed. Number one is we talked about your local divisions. It seems like every local division has a sponsor for that division, which is always really cool for what we see looking at tracks around the country. But I also like the way that the schedule you guys have set up. Look, Saturday, grandstands open at 2:30, qualifying begins at 3, and then you've got all these, preliminary divisions and stuff. And it just seems like it rolls right. From a race fan's perspective, the schedule looks like it's great for a weekend of racing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's fun for you guys, but I can tell you strategically on the back end of things, it is not fun.
No.
All it takes is one big wreck or, one front shower or someone blowing them up. to minute. It makes for a very long day, very exhausting day. But, you know, my goal behind this is I don't want to have 4 days of racing. I want to make it affordable for the drivers. I want to make it affordable for the fans. You know, so we cram what should be 3 to 4 days of racing into 2 days of racing.
Mm-hmm.
We're up against a curfew with the city, but you know what? We make it happen. And so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great weekend. We have a lot going for us. We have a huge midway that's being built.
Nope. I think we might have lost her.
Oh.
Dang, right, we were getting to the
Right,
good
we were
stuff.
getting to the good stuff.
Right to the good stuff. So we'll try to get her back on. Here's right what she was talking about there. I wanted to hear about the midway and all that. That's important stuff there. So we'll work to get her back on here in just a second.
Okay.
There we go, midway, and then we'll cut you loose. Sorry.
We have a huge midway that's being built. We're going to have live entertainment. We have a ton of vendors that are going to be here and partaking this weekend. A lot of the drivers are going to set up merch booths. We've got, you know, merch trailers coming in. So the All-American 400 is definitely turning back into an event instead of just a race, which is where it's supposed to be and how it's supposed to be. So, you know, we're making improvements each year, and I hope that, you know, next year is bigger and better than this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Weather's going to be good. You may have to bundle up a little bit, but that makes it even better. You get those cars out on the track. Maybe I saw mid-30s in the morning, but that's okay. It warms up, so it's all going to be
I'm
good.
going to be in a snowsuit with coffee. So there's that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Claire, we appreciate the time. I can only imagine your week, and I mean, keep going. I mean, make this thing an event. It's so exciting to see it back, like you said, where it needs to be, and you guys are just knocking it out of the park out there in Nashville.
I appreciate it, guys. I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate all the support. If there's anything I can do for you all, just let me know.
Yeah.
And hopefully maybe we'll see you guys this weekend.
Absolutely. Same thing. Holler anytime. Happy to help you just as much as we can.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys so much. Have a good night.
You bet. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Claire Formosa heading to her meeting, and thanks for the time there. That
busy lady.
Oh man, and she had mentioned at one point about getting down there, but of course we got the TMS commitment. But that's one of those events where it's just
Well, it seems like
gotta get to those.
It seems like any event there at the Fairgrounds is going to be a fun event. Remember back in the day, I sound like Chocolate Myers there, when TNN used to come in, they used to show those races.
Yeah.
Nashville was hot and heavy then.
Yeah, Music City, and kind of like country music. It's coming back around again, and they've had their challenges there, but. Her and her dad, I mean, they undertook this thing, and it's, you know, we talk about all the promoters here, you know, that run the places around here, and you heard she mentioned that dreaded word, you know, the 5-letter word is lease, and you know, they've got curfews and all this other stuff that they're dealing with over there, but I think this All-American 400 is going to be really, really good.
It's got the chance. I mean, it's like she said, she may not have the 70 super late models that you get when you go down to the Derby, but literally the top, at least 20 people, 20 dudes, and I think one lady on that pre-entry list.
Yeah.
They can win a race anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick break on the other side. We'll touch on Martinsville, then coming up at 7:10. Didn't get a chance to get you all the intro like we always do, but Blake Harris will join us. That's a Texas dude right there, and he happens to be the car chief on a car that whipped some ass yesterday at Martinsville.
Sure did.
We'll talk to him on the other side and more. This is the Revved Up Sports Show from Texas. Stick around, more coming up.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of 2 people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Saturdays at noon, Revved Up ATX takes over the Horn airwaves. Rodney Rodriguez and Bobby Chaffee discuss the world of motorsports, including winners and losers at 12:15 and places for races at 12:45. It's Revved Up ATX, Saturdays at noon on the Horn, where Austin talks racing. #Real Race Talk.
The Lodge Poker Club is a members-only social club offering a wide range of daily and tournament gameplay serving Central Texas. Located in Round Rock, just off 35, the Lodge boasts the area's largest room with 20 tables, 30 big screen TVs, and nightly complimentary food. Whether you're looking for a tournament or a cash game, you will find it at the Lodge. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Friday, 11 to 4 a.m., and 24 hours on the weekend. Visit us at thelodgepokerclub.com or call us at 512-614-4045.
This is Real Race Talk from Texas. It's the Revved Up Sports Show. Here's Bobby Chaffee and Rodney Rodriguez.
Bush's Chicken is a proud supporter of area schools, athletic programs, and booster clubs. With stores in Cedar Park, Round Rock, Georgetown, both North and South Austin, and now our newest store in Pflugerville. Bush's serves the Texas standard in real hand-battered fried chicken and crispy tenders, tasty rolls, and that famous Bush's sweet tea.
I love Bush's Chicken.
Bush's Chicken. It's good, good, good.
Play it all here.
I see that. It is race week.
Let's touch it.
Is that somebody that's playing down the road?
No.
Oh.
That's actually old. A little hip hop. Expanding the horizons.
I see that.
It's your Halloween fun right there. You got trick-or-treating.
Oh, that's right. I forgot it is
Monifa.
Halloween. Does it feel like Halloween already to you?
No. I don't know what Halloween feels like.
Halloween's my time, right?
Halloween's kind of one of those where I'm like, okay.
I love Halloween. I don't get as much into Christmas, at least the decorating part. I prefer to decorate for Halloween versus Christmas, but I get overruled a lot at the household.
I like Thanksgiving. I like the 4th of July, and I like Memorial Day. And pretty much because all of that relates to racing and football. So I don't know. I need to be a little more holiday-ish, but I'll work on that. But yeah, Halloween is Thursday, and I'll tell you one thing. I don't know. I know around here in the Austin area, it's going to be cold. First freeze expected, possibly.
Yeah, in the outer areas. Don't forget, if you're actually heading up to Texas Motor Speedway, bring a jacket because it is set to be kind of chilly up there, too.
Yeah.
Last forecast we saw, Saturday, I think, is highs in the upper 40s, I believe.
When is that?
On Saturday.
Oh, great. And that is a Saturday night race.
Mm-hmm. So bundle up. That's right.
Xfinity. So thanks to Claire Formosa for jumping on and talking about the All-American 400. It was ladies awful busy, and we almost had a problem there. She was double booked, but we got it all figured out.
That's right.
Well, she got it all figured out.
She got it all figured out.
I like how she said that, where she, there's things that she can handle. Well, she did that really, really well. So we mentioned there, if you go up and look at the top of the notes right there on Facebook part, give us your thoughts on the fight.
The fight?
You had a couple of guys there. I see guys that are Team Joey, Team Denny. I mean, whatever. I see a lot of folks piling on Denny Hamlin, but that was, I got to tell you, that was pretty much a chicken shit move there by Logano. I mean, he walks up to the guy, and he's being very cordial, and then he kind of does the little tap there on the way out, and it was even more chicken shit by Mr. Nichols over there that does the takedown. And
I think he got
he'll
suspended.
sit out a race, one race.
Yeah, one race suspension for that dude. But I don't know, man. If Denny Hamlin did to me what he did to Joey Logano, I wouldn't be patting him on the shoulder. I'd be wanting to whoop his ass.
Well, and that's the other thing that I'm seeing where people are like, if these guys, I don't think that was really going to be, I don't think that was going to be a physical altercation at all. I mean, it seemed to be that they were just going to conversate, as Denny said. A real man likes to converse. If a real man's going to converse.
I don't even really consider that a shove. Maybe it's because when we see fights at the local level after all these years, there's really a reason for somebody to want to push and shove. Like, it's a legitimate push,
That was about as much of a shove as our man Cole Custard and what's his name? The other Tyler Reddick.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much the same thing. But I think what people are, two things they're pissed off about is the outside interference from the crewman, and then at the same time that it wasn't really if you want to call it a fight, we need to see, a little bit more excitement.
When's the last good fight? The Daytona 500?
I really think that's when you go back to it.
Maybe
1979.
Well, you could say the All-Star race between Wesley Wallace and Darrell Waltrip's crew. There was some fist to flying there. Now, how much fist to face happened will vary besides which team, But.
Yeah, you saw some guy, and the thing is for Denny Hamlin, when I saw that happen, Denny Hamlin's like me. He's very brittle. He's had back injuries, he's had shoulder injuries. He's had a lot of things. Knee injuries. He's had to miss time. And when I saw that takedown, I'm like, man, but he bumped right up. So I guess he's okay. Or he was okay yesterday.
This is the deal. That is the worst thing that could happen to Denny Hamlin, because now, not only did his teammate win the race, he's now got all of this hype around it. When he was supposed to come into Martinsville, he qualified on the pole, and he was just supposed to wax their ass.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't happen. And so now the talk all week has been, can Denny Hamlin continue to be focused? Can he let that year that he winning the champion, or was going to win the championship, didn't get it done? I guess it was 2010.
Yeah, I think it was.
It took him a long time to get over that, when Jimmy Johnson came in just a horrible race at Phoenix, and then not a really good race in Miami. But right now, obviously, we'll talk to Blake about it here in a little bit. Truex is in the driver's seat.
Oh man, that dude right now, he's steamrolling, and this may be Logano against the 3 Gibbs cars when it's all said and done, or somebody. But Chase had his problems yesterday. But we talk about Kyle. I don't know, man. What's the deal with Kyle? Kyle?
Well, it depends on what you read.
Kyle doesn't seem to be in the frame of mind that he typically is, and the results are showing. I would love to bitch about top 15 finishes, but something's not right.
Well, there's rumors on the internet. I was going to talk to you before we actually got into those. A very reliable source on Reddit that actually is fairly close and usually fairly authentic is that there's a little bit of
distraction,
extracurricular activities of that kind of nature that might be causing the friction and the distraction.
Oh man, that talk about a new subplot going into playoffs.
I'll let you read it.
That's a whole nother,
because the timeline at which the person on Reddit is reporting it goes hand in hand with him running like garbage.
Oh. Again, we're speculating.
That's right. Total speculation here. It's not breaking news. If you look for it, you can find it. And it's extracurricular activities on a couple front, so to speak. I guess.
Wow, that
I thought I had sent that.
That would explain it.
Did I not send that to you yesterday?
I got to do that again. You heard it right from Bobby Chaffee.
Pure speculation, not trying to spread any kind of rumors or anything.
You heard it right from. Wow.
We read.
Maybe we'll ask him. No,
we read the same thing that everybody else does on different stuff like that, but it's not. It's not our place to speculate on the stability of his life outside of the race car. So,
well, the thing is, you've got. Chase Elliott now. He's probably going to need to win at this point. It looks like. Kevin Harvick is sitting. Kevin Harvick just really hasn't. I hate to say that he's a disappointment, but you would just expect more.
He just didn't have.
But he could come to life this weekend. He could come to life this weekend.
The Penske cars, the switch, although I'm not sure, it helped out Ryan Blaney in the race because they brought that 2-pit crew with him.
Yeah.
I think from a friendship standpoint, I think he's a little pissed off because of the fact that he's had that same team forever, and he knows their kids. Like he knows their kids' names, stuff along those lines. So the fact that the 2 crew kind of got swapped out, but that's what you do. You want we saw it yesterday. How many positions did he gain on pit road? Every single pit stop.
Every time. And I think that we can really go back to with Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus, all of that. What Chad is doing with William Byron. It's a runner-up finish once again. And a lot of that is you're carrying that 24 number, all of that. There's a lot of that, but he is really molding this guy. And then I don't really think that it was going to be a question that could William Byron do this job. I think it was going to be more win because he's won in everything. And now I think
he's only been racing for 7-8 years.
Exactly. And now he's got that piece in place. And man, this guy, as long as Chad hangs around, which I would think for Chad, I think for Chad
Everything
Knaus,
apparently looks like it.
this is fun again, I think, because you had the disruptions that were happening there with he and Jimmy, and a lot of that had to be. I mean, I think we've seen it with like Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, where you get so good, and there's a little bit of
Complacent.
yeah, complacency is there, and then at the same time, you know, the admiration for the second part of that tandem, of that dynasty, they get a little pissed off. And I think maybe that's what we saw there. It got stale, but Chad's taking that dude to another level.
Well, and I think Cliff Daniels actually done really good for Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
Everything
Yep.
that we've seen is that they are completely re-racking and restacking every single one of those cars. I think Jimmy Johnson will win. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to win before the year's over.
No.
I was more confident of that a couple of weeks ago, but I see lots of good things because the package is not changing.
No.
All they're doing is limiting the number of cars next year, but other than that, the package is changing. I think when Jimmy Johnson kind of gets all those new cars, kind of the kinks and stuff worked out in it, I think he'll win. I think he'll win at least one race in 2020, break the win streak, and then I'm anticipating 2020 being the final year.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think so. That's because I think he's going to announce. He's not going to be like everybody else and announce it early.
Yeah.
I think he's going to announce it about halfway through, and then we'll see which manufacturer comes in.
Yeah.
You see anything about Honda?
I did.
Honda?
I did. Yeah, I did.
I still think Kia's coming in too. Either
Could
either
be.
Kia or
those,
Hyundai.
Those Kias, I can tell you the Kias that you see out on the highway. And we had some friends in last night, and I got a new Camry, and we were looking at that, and we were talking about it. It's a luxurious vehicle, but it does have the body style of the Cup car. And if you look at the Kias out on the road, I mean, you see Kias. I talk about my Camry as a poor man's Lexus, is what I say, and it really is because it's in that same family. It's in that same family. But the Kias, I don't know what that is. A Kia.
It's a Stinger.
Is
the
that
Kia
what it is?
Stingers,
Okay.
they're four-door. That looks like a coupe.
And that is a really, really good looking car. And to get that in there, and man, I still wish that we could get Dodge back in there. Really have to try to build some parity back in there, just to have everybody. I think with what we have now, Kia and Dodge, I think that would be a really nice mix and sell some cars on Monday.
Well, I think two things we got to look at. Number one, Jim France has done an exceptional job with IMSA, trying to get all those different manufacturers in here, coming up with the balance of performance and all of that. That's great. Jim France still running NASCAR. Going to be a lot of crossover when you think about some of the manufacturers that he's got over there, coming over there. There's a Kia sports car program already. There's a Honda motorsports program and some of the GT4 stuff, but definitely, ties in with the Indy cars. But here's the thing that gets me, is that the detractors of NASCAR constantly are pissing and moaning and bitching about having we want more stock appearing cars. We want this, we want that, we want it to be stock. Now NASCAR is moving in the stock direction. Granted, they got kind of a universal floor plan. I guess it's going to be similar to like V8 or supercar racing, basically.
Well, but that's the IMSA feel. I mean,
but they're going back to stock, and everybody's still pissed off.
I know, and that's
the motor. Those new hybrid motors, that's what they're selling in these cars now.
And we've talked about it time after time. When you're out on the highway, look around. Look at what you see. That does look like what we're watching in these races. I mean, it does. Obviously, it's not a stock car. Back in the day, I mean, they were stock. We talk about the death of the street stocks and all this stuff. That's what happened way back when with the Cup cars. They went to the aftermarket stuff. Yeah, still had a stock shell, but we can sit here and break these chassis down all we want, Toyota, Ford, Chevrolet, but when you get to the chassis of these things, they're all built on jigs, and they're all built, and these motors are dynoed and everything. The only thing that is stock appearing, and it does appear to be stock, like with what you see right now on October 28th, 2019, on the highway, they look the same, or somewhat the same.
I mean, they all look
somewhat.
Kenny Schrader told us that one time. The reason that the cars look the same is because they look the same on the street.
Right. It is a stock appearing, and that's
because it's not NASA car. It's not the National Association for Stock Appearing Auto Racing. Right.
And that's actually maybe what they should rebrand this as, instead of saying stock car racing, because we think stock car racing as like at the local short track, which, by the way, at the local short track, other than, and that again, that's where I applaud dirt, because you do have You have your iStocks and your factory stocks and all of that. But again, that's a deception.
That's a deception.
Damn factory stock.
It's a late model.
Yeah, and you know
The only stock car class remaining at an asphalt track is similar to the eco stocks there in Houston.
that's exactly
the
right.
stock appearing class because that's all there is now.
The new street stock needs to be the damn 4-cylinder class because that's what looks. If you look at Mike Meekum and all those guys that are out there racing and the whatever they're called, the compacts, sport compacts. I mean that's stock. Mm-hmm. That's stock. Even the Monte Carlos and everything that we see now is stock appearing, but it's an aftermarket body. It's not.
Body. They got the Monte Carlo front clips. So I get there's sections of stock.
Yeah.
There's nothing stock about a factory stock. There's really not a lot stock about an iStock.
Yeah, but and then when you get in there and you start, you put shims in the front clip and start doing all this. Yeah, you're taking the stock out of it, but that's happened forever, and that's where. When we go back and we watch these videos that our man Ray Scott posts that we share all the time, I mean, that's where you go back and you see the stock. But again, back in those days, that stock appearing because, I mean, think about this. So back when you had to run the stock upper control arms and all that stuff, you bent the hell out of those. I mean, we had them laying in a pile where I would bend those or run into somebody. Then you went to the weight jacks with the aftermarket A arms and all that. So, I mean, this is nothing new. This has been the same thing forever. I mean, it's just now it's like, oh, that's not stock.
I mean, the only thing stock there for a while about your Camaro or the Sizzlin 7 that you still have. The two things that stock on it is the frame and the roof and maybe the trunk.
Yeah,
that's about the only thing remaining stock on it.
That's exactly right. Because the doors, we got them done. The fenders, we got them done. The spoiler, we ran that stock spoiler on there. But you're right. We left the roof, and we left the trunk, and the whole thing is like even on the old 22 that we had back then, it was a stock roof, but that some bitch wasn't in the stock place.
Yeah,
doesn't matter now because I don't run. But
that black car was slick.
Wasn't when Dad built that car, he manipulated that car in so many different ways. But everybody did it.
I'm gonna say he didn't do anything different than anybody else was.
Everybody did it. But I mean that car, if you'd have looked at that, it was a stock frame, but that son of a gun wasn't quite as square as it should have been.
That's the best car you ever had.
Oh, I love that car. That thing. That car protected me a lot because I put her through hell. Hell. That was a home-built roll cage that my dad did.
Really?
That was a home-built roll cage that he built in his driveway. Because
that's not the same one you started with Kyle, right?
No. Yeah.
You ran the black one in San Antonio.
The black one. That was the same car. It was gray. It was black. It was all these different colors. Always the same car. Every time that it got a new body, it got a different tweak. And it seemed to get faster every time.
That's the best thing.
I don't know what all the hell he did, but that was a great car. Great car. But we'll get back to Martinsville because we got to break that down just a little bit more. Preview TMS. CODA's coming up. We got to talk about CODA 2. We'll tell you what our we've just got this massive weekend plan of everything that's going to be happening. We're going to be double dipping on a bunch of stuff, but we'll get you to that. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk to Blake Harris, the man that put that 464 lap leading monster together yesterday.
That's right.
Damn, ass whooping. That's coming up. This is Revved Up Sports Show from Texas.
It's your last chance of the year to see the best circle track racing Texas has to offer. Saturday night, November 9th at Houston Motorsports Park. The Texas Short Track Racing Series year-end finale will feature Pro Modifieds, Pro Trucks, Outlaws, Super Stocks, NASCARs, and more. Plus, the fan-favorite sprint cars will make a special appearance. It's the 2019 championship finale on the 3/8 mile asphalt oval. Speed Fest at Houston Motorsports Park on North Lake Houston Parkway. Saturday, November 9th, starting at 5:30 p.m. Buy the whole seat, but you'll only use the edge.
Austin 360 Marketing is your one-stop site for all your business marketing needs. With our wide variety of products and services, we have what you need to bring awareness and exposure to your business. We believe marketing should be fun and rewarding for both your business and your customers. We can find the right niche for any business looking to impact their marketing campaign. Whether it be marketing material, online marketing, or direct marketing, we can deliver on any budget. Contact us today for your acrylic signs, banners, window and vehicle vinyl, and more. We're Austin 360 Marketing, 512-913-7693. Find us on the web at austin360marketing.com or email Gino Simmental at geno@a360m.com. Austin 360 Marketing. We'll make you look good.
In our commitment to area high school football, the Horn is excited to introduce the Horn Webcast Network, powered by IHS Fan. In addition to our 3 high school football radio game broadcasts each week, we will provide our fans with the ability to listen to the play call from 8 other weekly high school football games. How cool will it be to sit at your game and click on the Horn app and have complimentary access to as many as 11 different games? The Horn app is your Austin area high school football season ticket. The Horn Webcast Network, powered by IHS Fan.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter Brooklyn was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I see the future is really bright for me.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
All right, back here live, Texas Race Week edition of the Revved Up Sports Show. Bobby Chaffee, Rodney Rodriguez with you here. And joining us now on the hotline, you might have seen this car waxing their ass yesterday by just leaps and bounds. Actually, 7 times season's worth of it. We're joined by the car chief of the number 19 Joe Gibbs Racing Camry, Mr. Blake Harris. Blake, it's got to feel good to be you right now, but talk about how that competition meeting went today over at Joe Gibbs Racing.
Yeah, fortunately, on Mondays I don't have to sit through those. So
nice.
Cole and the drivers do. Crew chiefs, drivers get together, and all those guys kind of go through everything. But Mondays I try to spend a little bit of family time before we get crazy into the next week's stuff. So, yeah. But man, from our perspective, it didn't go bad. So about as good as it could have gone.
Yeah, no doubt. 464 laps led. I mean, that's pretty solid, man. And talk about that. You guys, there for a while, it's like, well, Truex not winning on the short tracks, but that was solidified ass whooping. No other way to put it.
Yeah, that was Martinsville. Obviously, is a pretty unique track, and I know Martin's been trying to win there for years. And man, I've been part of some really bad days there before too. When stuff goes downhill, it seems to spiral, and that place can eat you up pretty quick. But man, I mean, up to this point, last year, even in a couple last 2 or 3 years, I'd say with him, I mean, we've had probably 10 to 12 short tracks that we were in position to win, and something would happen, and it just wouldn't work out if it was pit stop or get wrecked, and so it's nice to finally be able to string I think 3 of them together this year, short track wins. So it was definitely and then this one to get this one in Loxton to Homestead, just that's a big deal.
Y'all definitely need to market that as Martinsville, because it was Martinsville yesterday. Clean
it
cut.
Was yesterday,
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Martinsville stuff, but before we get real deep into Miami and all that good stuff, a lot of people don't realize that you're a Texas boy, and you did quite a bit of racing here. In fact, you ran an old Texas Super Racing Series late model, if my notes serve me well. And we might have got some inside information from someone that's been on the show a couple of times before, but we won't have all the secrets. But talk about your racing days back in Texas with your dad and your sister.
Man, I grew up in North Texas. My dad ran sprint cars at Devil's Bowl for 15, 20 years, and he ran, I'd say, up to the mid 90s, even kind of up through NCRA and stuff. And so that's kind of where my interest was in racing. I mean, I was scraping mud off the sprint car when I was 2, 3 years old, and so I started racing probably 11, 12, and ran go-karts kind of up in the North Texas area. And then when I was 14, I swapped over to some dirt, like street stock cars, outlaw street stocks, UMP sanctioned at the time, if any of you guys remember those things when they were around. So I ran Cowtown 281, a few stuff in North Texas there. And then the next year we swapped over to American Race Trucks, and I ran those things when it was still the touring series. You know, I mean, it was Houston, San Antonio, Kyle. I mean, we ran Kyle all the time, Wichita Falls. I think we went up to Altus some with my dad when he ran those, and then a year or two the TSRS cars, and that was, you know, Corpus, Houston, San Antonio, Kyle again, Wichita Falls, just kind of all up through there. So that was my Texas stint till I moved off to the East Coast for a few years.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff right there. Love.
Back when the trucks were 305s and automatics, yeah.
Man, yeah, the automatics, yeah. How was that? I mean, it's like you're waiting for the horsepower to come on. I mean, you got that automatic. You're like waiting the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have a different perspective on that style of racing now. You know, I ran, when I went to the East Coast for a while, I started working for a cup team and had a little short track team for a few years, and then I moved to Colorado with Furniture Row, and I started racing some super late models again, and talking about the American Race Trucks and those 305s and all that. When I got in that super late model, you know, we had, I think that year it was like the softest 10-inch tires Hoosier had, and I was like, you can't. You know, I was driving something with more horsepower, way faster than, you know, kind of what those trucks and the TSRS cars were at the time. And I was like, I remember getting out of this. I was like, you can't wreck these cars. Like, you can't. But I mean, you'd hang it out to the flag stand. Yeah. You could drive it in 10 car lengths too deep into the corner, and it might slide up 3 lanes. But I mean, you had a lot of room for forgiveness. And so, but those trucks, when we ran them, they were, I don't know what tires the guys are on now, but they were on a really small tire and a hard tire.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And even though it didn't have the horsepower and stuff, your corner speeds, you know, you were so on edge, and you couldn't rip the tires off throwing the throttle back down. But I mean, you had to manage all that stuff just because the grip level was so low. And you know, I think transition from dirt to that was pretty easy for me. And those cars, you know, those trucks were just, I never got out and was like, oh man, these are just easy to drive, you know, because I mean, you could, when you ran them hard, I mean, you're right on edge, and it was super competitive series. I mean, I remember we had 36 trucks, and I mean, my rookie season, you know, you have to start the first like 5 or 6 races in the back, and I mean, it was a good day to run 5th if you could make it up there in 50 laps, you know. So
no doubt,
that was those were fun to drive, man. I what do they run now? Crate motors in them, I would assume.
Yeah, 50-50.
Yeah, a little. They've opened it up a little bit, but it's still on that little bitty tire. At Houston. So
that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. They get after it. They lean on each other quite a bit out there, but it's good racing. It's fun.
All right, so Blake, talk about your time with Furniture Row, because my brother-in-law lives in Loveland. And so I remember I was really happy about going out to Denver, and I was going to do this. And I had 2 things on the agenda the couple of days I had before I had to actually spend time with family. Number 1 is I wanted to eat at the Denver Biscuit Company, which was it seemed much better on Guy's Big Bite than it did in person. And then the other thing, I wanted to go to Furniture Row Racing, and I had to double check my GPS because I was like, I passed it like 3 or 4 times. There's not a big sign. There wasn't any kind of flashiness. It's like you guys were all business over there, kind of tucked away in your own world over there at Furniture Row.
Yeah, I did the same thing when I went out there to interview.
Nice.
You know, for the very, very first time I pull up, and I'm like, I'm in the middle of a warehouse district, you know, like, and that, you know, but that first look at Furniture Row and that look that you got when you drive up to the place kind of sums up, you know, what our owner at the time was about, Barney. I mean, that was one of his original mattress factories when he started the company, and it's, you know, it's an older neighborhood, kind of warehouse district. You know, there's nothing fancy about it, but when it came down to like the parts we needed or the stuff we needed for cars or equipment, how many do we need? What do we need to do to be the best? And that's kind of how he always ran it. And, you know, I think we'd always joke because when we'd be, you know, leading the points or win the championship, we probably had one of the oldest haulers in the Cup garage. I mean, it was literally an old DEI hauler. I mean, that's how old the thing was. It probably changed hands a couple times, but it got the job done. There was nothing new and flashy about it, but it didn't do anything to make the car go faster, and it got the cars to the track. So, that was just kind of how he always treated everything. And, we always had what we needed and then some to go be competitive. So it's hard to not love that.
Yeah, no doubt. Blake Harris joins us on the Revved Up Sports Show hotline, car chief of the number 19 Toyota, driven by Martin Truex Jr. And that transition over, Blake. I was brokenhearted when there was no more Furniture Row, when all of that came down. And of course, I think a lot of us local racers could relate to Furniture Row and what Barney did, building that into a championship team. Your thoughts as you had to transition over to Joe Gibbs? I mean, was it like night and day, or was it really smooth getting all of that done?
I mean, we already knew a lot of the people over there. I think there was maybe 5 or 6 total of us from Furniture Row that came over. Obviously everybody knows, Martin and Cole, but we had a few of the mechanics that came along, myself. I mean, so we knew a lot of people, we knew the cars, we knew the equipment, and that stuff made it all easier. If we'd have maybe gone somewhere where it's completely different manufacturer, chassis, I think there would have been a little more up to speed time. So I don't think there was much up to speed from the standpoint of what we needed to do at the racetrack, but was a lot of new people. I mean, I would say over half of the 19 team are guys that already existed at Gibbs, and maybe 3/4 more than that. And so it was us, kind of getting to know those guys and learn those guys and figure out how to work with all that. And my best answer for that in general is it's just things are just different, not good or bad, or not necessarily a positive or negative. It's just, we had a really small group out in Colorado, and we have tons of people at JGR, and they have a certain way that they've done things for years, and we had certain things, so the end result, and getting there and having good fast race cars is obviously there. And we had that in Colorado as well. It's just, there's different little ways to go about it and how those processes work. And it took us a little bit to learn kind of how they do things and how to go about things that we needed done or wanted to get done. And, other than that, I mean, it was pretty smooth transition, I would say, for sure.
Like moving from a small town to a big city, adapting to how things work different.
So Blake, question for you here. When they say car chief, right, that seems like that's a really important job. It seems like it's important enough for you to get suspended and get sent home from the principal's office.
Ejected.
But what all exactly does the car chief do nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of take you quickly through, my week. I mean, I'll go in, me and the mechanics will work, the road guys that travel with the car, we'll work Tuesday, Wednesdays typically, depending on where we're going and how much time the truck needs to get there. But we'll go through, we'll get anything that needed to be swapped back over from Martinsville, anything off our backup cars or parts and piece wise that's different, say going to Texas this weekend. We'll get all that stuff swapped over, and then we'll have our primary backup car that we'll put a lot of focus on. And a lot of times I'll jump in and make sure that kind of the crew chief and the engineers kind of come up with what they want in the car. And now the racing we do is a lot different this year than kind of what we've done in the past. There's a lot of kind of drag versus downforce stuff that we got to keep up with. So we have, all these lists that we have to go through and make sure that the car is kind of in the correct configuration for the track that we're going to. So myself and the mechanics, we'll go through and make sure all that stuff's right. And then once we're kind of got the car prepped, and we have you see the Hawkeye system or the OSS system that NASCAR has that we go through. We have one of those at our shop, so we'll go through that thing multiple times, through our couple of days of prep in the shop. Now, granted, that car's been through that thing, 30 times prior to us ever getting it, through the build process. But we'll kind of put our final, when we put it in go through that 10 at the shop, we'll look at it and, I have to kind of make sure that I'm okay with how we're going to present that at the track. And, understand too that we're talking, plus or minus 150,000 tolerances on something. So just because we left our shop at 140 on something doesn't always mean that when we get to the track that it shows 140 on theirs. I mean, we have the option to build it at 0, but that's not how we work, right?
Exactly.
That's not how racing works. So,
That's right.
so you got to kind of pay attention to how all that stuff goes. But and then when once I get all the final setup information, we've gone through that. We're good with the body. We're good with everything mechanically. We'll get everything. They'll send a setup down, and me and mechanics will scale the car out, have everything essentially ready to go on track, and then we'll kind of get the car ready to travel and shooting a trailer, and then we get to the track. When we present the car to NASCAR, dealing with the officials or any of those tech procedures that, if they're like, hey, this doesn't look quite right, can you fix this or can you work on this? Those are the notes I'll go through and make sure that we get that stuff corrected. So I deal with those guys primarily with NASCAR and present that stuff through inspection. And then once we get through inspection and we're ready to go on track, I mean, all that prep work, I work close with the mechanics and then the engineer and crew chiefs, to make sure that we've got everything that they want implemented in the car correctly. The car is safe to go on the track, making sure that everything, that the driver needs is good to go, and, get through the car prep throughout the weekend and hopefully get through that last inspection process so I get to hang out for the race.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Get to stay the whole weekend. Man, that sounds like a lot. So got to ask you. So you're a race car guy, and I mean, obviously, but I mean, I look at your Facebook page. You happen to have yourself a pretty good little shock business going as well. I see a lot of guys winning races and winning championships and all that. Talk to that. Shocks are so important now, and I think you have that figured out.
Yeah, a little backstory on that. One of the guys that I worked with at Furniture Row for 9 years was our shock specialist, and his name's Nick Curlin. He came from he's been in IndyCar, World Outlaws, and I became pretty good friends with him the first few years at Furniture Row, and I was the car chief on the road traveling. He was our shock guy on the road. Once I started traveling full time, I stopped racing. Like I mentioned, I was running super late models, but I'd kind of gotten to know a lot of the local guys in Colorado. Mm-hmm. So in my spare time, when I get done on work on Monday or Tuesday out there, I'd go, either test with a guy or go, set their truck or late model up. And, kind of along with that was, hey, what are we going to do shock wise? So, Nick and I we bought a dyno, and this, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago now. We started, I was like, yeah, we'll build some stuff for some guys around here and see how it goes, see if we like it, see if we can have fun with it.
Yeah.
And we just started picking up more and more work. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I think we're somewhere a little above over 100 feature wins this year.
Nice.
Last year, haven't done the math yet this year, but last year we were in 26 different states. So it's kind of it started to grow, and honestly, the last 2 years, we were kind of, with him and I both full time, especially when we get into the playoffs towards the end of the year,
yeah.
We're putting so much into our day jobs. I was just like, I was always like, man, we're, 5-6 weeks out on stuff, kind of feel like I'm struggling to keep up. And all our customers, I mean, they know, they appreciate what our full-time job
Sure.
was, but at the same time, racers, they need their stuff too. So I was getting to the point, I was like, man, we're like at peak production here. We can't, and I wouldn't do anything to try to expand business, because I was like, we can't, we're trying to keep up with what we got and take care of the guys we had. So,
For sure.
Kind of as Furniture Row, we found out Furniture Row was shut down. Nick's wife's from Colorado and her family's from Colorado, and he wasn't going to make the transition to the East Coast. Our shock business by no means was anywhere close to being able to, have 2 full-time employees either. It was kind of a part-time gig. So, Nick runs it full-time now. And so when I moved to the East Coast, I still talk with him every day. We kind of split, customer support as far as, what we need to do. But I mean, he's killer shot guy, and he can, he handles a lot of the day-to-day stuff, especially if I'm busy with what I've got going. He talks and, talks to all of our customers and gets them dialed in. But, we do about everything. I mean, it's been from, like I said, it kind of started, there's Colorado National Speedways just outside of Denver there. That was a, oval track, asphalt track. And then there was a couple of dirt tracks around is kind of what we transitioned to. And with both of us having asphalt and dirt background, it just kind of expanded from there. I mean, last few years we've been for like our open wheel dirt guys. We've been doing a lot of factory cane stuff and down to, whatever late models, trucks, asphalt stuff. I mean, kind of anything. I mean, it might be the pure stocks that run on dirt or asphalt where we, go through and do their just dyno, the stuff that can't be built or whatever, and just make sure they got something good, and pair it up to the guys that, build custom Penske's or factory canes for sprint cars. I mean, it's kind of, it's done pretty well. So, Nick's been pretty busy this year. I think we'll be able to continue that as a full time. This was our first full time year for him. So I was excited to see, kind of how that growth would go, but it's really been all word of mouth, I mean, I think the shock business and racers are kind of funny, right? Like,
oh yeah,
a lot of them will promote you, and right. I try to, I try to put congrats out there to those guys when they win, and try to do a little, promotion on Facebook, as you mentioned. But at the same time, there's a lot of those racers that run your stuff, and they don't want to run your sticker. They don't want people to know that they're running your stuff, and I can appreciate that too. So, but we're definitely all word of mouth, and I've been on a little bit of a push this last year though. I've been trying to talk to some guys down in Texas and down in South Texas and Houston and all that, because I mean that's kind of my roots and where I grew up, and it means a little more to me to have some of our stuff down in there and guys running well, just because I know what we can do for their program, and that's what I spent a lot. That's where most of my free time goes is working on our shop business. So
yeah, that's awesome.
You're getting a few props here on the live Facebook feed we got going on there. There's a couple of guys that do fairly good down there in Houston.
Oh,
They're talking about how good the shocks are.
Yeah.
But
all right, that's awesome.
That's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
So this may be a stupid question. I don't know. I'm not the most mechanically inclined guy when it comes to work on them. So is it the same technology realistically between the shocks that a cup car uses that transfers all the way down to a super late model or a truck or something like that?
Yeah, I mean the setups and stuff are obviously very different, on what's needed for, on our stuff, a lot aerodynamically, but and it's not necessarily you take a Martinsville build from this weekend, and I'm like, hey, here's what I think, here's what we ran at Martinsville, and this is what we're going to do. It's not kind of how it works, It's just, it's concepts on, the grip that you want to build into a shock and what you need to do for certain moments of transfer, like all that stuff over, the course of the years in racing. I would say that's more of what's applicable for the situations, because you could take two late model guys right now, or two truck guys running in Houston, guys running first and second place. And one of them could call and say, hey man, I'm running this setup. I'm struggling with this, and here's my shocks. I'm gonna send them to you. Check them out. We'll dyno them. We'll look at them. And that might not be anything like we would build, but he's winning and he needs to do this one thing better. And that might be something that, we came across 3 years ago. It was like, oh man, if we do this, that right rear shock or this left front shock, we know we can fix that problem. And that's what I think, we probably do a little bit better job, because we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we've got guys that are lost sometimes, like, hey man, just build me what you think and let's go from there. And then call me in 2 weeks and let's talk about what we can do to make it better. But those guys that are already really good, and they're like, man, if I could just get this thing to turn a little bit better dead center, that's where you can kind of combine what they have with what they're doing setup wise, and try to, sometimes a little subtle couple tweaks there can really make the difference for them.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll get to Homestead here in just a second, but I have to ask you. So, folks who don't know, Caitlin Vincey, that's your wife, and so she's NASCAR on Fox. You guys, you being a car chief and you on the road, whatever, and she's on the road doing all of her stuff. How is that finding the balance there for you guys, but both in the motorsports and the NASCAR business?
Man, I would say that's a daily thing that I try to keep up with on, and the balance. I bet. We're during race season, it's 1,000,000 miles an hour in 24 different directions, and we've got a 2-year-old daughter, and that's where I think where we try to find the balance the most at, and for me, family wise, we do this 30, 38 ends up the season is actually 40 weeks long with a couple off weeks. And, she's hosting, she's been hosting a bunch of stuff for Fox this year, and she travels some still. And so our schedules don't always line up very much, So, I come home and, my Tuesday, Wednesdays might be 10, 12, 14-hour days. Racers, right? We're done when we're done, when the car's done, when it's ready. There's no like, I'm going to work these hours.
Punching the clock. Yeah.
That balance is something that I try to find daily. And I'm not going to say that I found it or how. I can't tell you how I balance it because, I always feel like it was a lot different 4 or 5 years ago. And race cars, that's all that mattered. And this is all you thought about 24/7. And now, with the family and her job, my job, you definitely daily you try to figure out, what can we make time for? And, we try to do a good job in the off season. And if we do have an off week, we'll go do stuff. And, we'll try to go do some hiking and stuff like that. That you gotta kind of like flip the switch off for a few hours and go do those things. And I think that's the best bet that we've had.
Yeah. See a date night in there every now and then to kind of jump in there. That's a
absolutely.
Well, the two things that I noticed when you were suspended that one race, she was really happy about that, but she's still upset about your rally beard. So I don't know. There's not a whole lot we can give you advice on that one. But talk about Martinsville now, or actually, I guess we'll go past Martinsville. It seemed like you guys now, everybody talked about who's the contenders and all of that. You guys have a 2-week head start basically on preparing for Homestead. I imagine there was a different vibe there today than there was when you guys left on Friday. Talk about the difference. Does it change your mindset? What's it like from the inside the walls over there?
And it's a 4-car team, right? We got 400 plus employees, so there's still a lot of work to be done on the other 2 guys and making sure, sure be nice to go down there with 3 JGR cars of the 4 for the championship. That's best case scenario for our company. As far as, my team and some of the team guys that we have that work in the shop, it's a huge weight lifted because it's not that you go into these races wondering if you can perform. Don't get me wrong, there's 5,000, probably 5 million variables that have to go right to get everything right and to go have the day like we did yesterday. But it's all the stuff that's out of your control. I'm not talking even parts failures or engine failures, anything like that. But say that we went and something happened at the end of the race and we finished second. And we go to Texas and we do stuff well all day long, and then we have 5 to go. We have one of those restarts. Everybody's bunched up the way they are now on the intermediate tracks, and say somebody, wiggles inside of us, runs in our left rear, cuts left rear tire down. We have to come down under green, or we get spun and wrecked, and you finish 35th. Now you're on the cut line going to Phoenix. It's just that's. It's crazy to me. Like, we were sitting there before the race and the TV stuff came up yesterday and, it said we were 14 points to the good. And I was like, man, I said, I didn't even look at it last week because I knew, I knew whatever it wasn't enough. Yeah. We finished third or fourth in the regular season standings, got, 9 extra bonus points for that. We've won up to that point. We had won 6 races. We won however many stage races. And it's like, it's so tight right now in that top 4 or 5, to 8th, we might have 30, 40 points, but to 5th, the cutoff, it's not enough. And it never feels like enough. You could have 52 points going into the first week and it doesn't feel like enough. And short, certainly at 14, you finish outside of stage 1 and 2, outside of the top 10, that's gone. So, so to be able to go into Texas and Phoenix and, not even care about the points and just be focused on Homestead and going and trying to win those next couple of races prior to Homestead, that's, there's not anything that can describe that.
Yeah.
And it's really funny. People still complain about the setup that they have now. About, for some reason, we always talk about it. People will find something to complain about NASCAR. But the format now for this championship, from a fan's perspective, I mean, you guys are under the microscope and under the most pressure. But it's got to be. It's the most fun that we see in terms of just raw excitement and raw emotions for the races. We think it's probably, as much as I second guessed it when they first announced it, this format that they have now, at least from the entertainment side of it, has just been awesome.
Yeah, they've done. I always like. I mean, there's always people that everybody's gonna have a different opinion. There's always people that are, well, we should have left it this way, or it was better when it was the traditional. I mean, I'm good with them trying things, and I think this is a few years in on this format now. We got knocked out in 2016 because of a blown motor, and I could sit here and say that I didn't think that the format was fair, but we did not execute that round. Yep. And we had won 4 races that year and didn't execute that round. I mean, it's no different when you go into football playoffs. You don't win one game, you're out. You know, and racing's a lot different than that, but you have to perform under pressure and under the playoffs, and unfortunately, performance won't always get it if you have some bad luck along the way. But I think it gives opportunity for the guys to step up in this format, and I like it. I think we got to be really careful about letting the racing get stale and the formats get stale if it's not creating excitement. And they try to adjust some things. Doesn't mean that I think they always hit it perfect or everything that we do is perfect, but at the same time, you got to applaud their efforts for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, for sure. Lastly, Blake, so we're talking about you guys, you punch your ticket for Homestead, so you're set. I heard some folks saying today where they're like, well, the 19 team, they can relax. They've got, but still these next 2 weeks that are coming up, how do you balance that? Because obviously you want to keep the momentum that you guys have. You don't let your hair down, so to speak. I mean, you got to keep moving forward, going towards Homestead to have the momentum that you have right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference is, when you're not putting the focus on getting to Homestead, you're going in there to race for the Final Four.
Yeah.
And like, to give you an idea, I mean, we have so much preparation that goes into these cars. If we were going to Texas tomorrow and it wasn't really, we weren't locked into Homestead yet, you go in and you're working on Texas stuff. Like, you're not really worried about Phoenix yet or whatever. You might not even know if the Phoenix car is, in another department over here or whatever, but now I'm going to know where that Homestead car is until we leave, and that's kind of your perspective. It changes everything. It doesn't mean that we're going to do less preparation for Texas. We had several the last few years that slipped away at Texas, and those cut me a little deep,
Oh, yeah.
So nobody wants to win worse there than I do.
Yep.
So they're giving out trophies. We want to take them too. So we're going to keep doing what we can do for the next 2 weeks. And I think something that I've noticed from just my perspective on Martin the last few years, it's like when he kind of gets the momentum going, we finally won a back-to-back race this year, but like even at the beginning of the year, we won Richmond, we skipped a race, we won Dover, we skipped a race or two, we won the 600. Like, he kind of gets on a roll. So I think, I think the performance to go there, you're going to run well, but it's just the racing's a lot different, right? Like, Texas is going to be different than what Homestead is grip level wise and how that track's going to race. Phoenix is way different than Homestead. So not a lot applicable there, but definitely just being able to know, that Homestead is going to be, you can shift your focus to a lot of that stuff and not really, sweat anything in between there. So
exactly.
Well, I know, Rodney said we're going to cut you loose. I do have a quick question about the sibling rivalry. For those that didn't catch it, Jacqueline Drake, who's been on the show a couple of times, is your sister. Was there a sibling rivalry with you two growing up around your dad's sprint cars? And I mean, I'm not even going to ask who's the better racer, because I could ask her, and who knows what she'd say. But what about the sibling rivalry with both you guys moving from Texas out to the Carolinas?
Yeah, I mean, we started racing essentially the same time. I mean, we started racing the same year. I think I was 11, she was 6.
Nice.
And and I think she did it because I did it, right? When she was that young, she's like, my brother's doing it, I want to do it. And the first year or so, she was kind of just out there having fun, having a good time. And, I was old enough, I was already kind of set on kill, right? Like I wanted to go win everything. And, Dad had to pull me back a little bit sometimes. But when, about a year in, things started to click for her. And then, man, growing up, when she ran dirt cars or dirt carts, she ran quarter midgets. That was kind of, what she was running while I was still in Texas. And I mean, I crewed on those things, helped build those things. And, I wish I would have been around when she ran late models and stuff. I still tell my dad, I said, one day we're going to go back. I mean, I still have my car down in Texas. I took it back there before I left Colorado, and she's got her car still at my dad's. So one day we will get something together, and I'd actually, I don't know if I'll ever race against her. That would definitely be
fun.
Be worth the effort. I
That's
think.
right.
But,
that's right.
I really want to go. I want to go crew chief one for her because she's won a lot of races, and she won a lot of stuff growing up, and she raced probably double the time that I was actually behind the wheel. And I think. I don't know. When we were younger, it was always, we'd go one way with the stock car, and she'd go another way with my grandpa, and they would come back, and it'd kind of be like, all right, who brought the trophy home tonight? So that was maybe the peak of the rivalry. We wanted to see who could get more trophies, but she's definitely exceeded the trophy count than what I ever got. So
Blake, I got to tell you, we've got Gina, the promoter at Houston. She just chimed in on Facebook. She's like, one day when we're ready. I mean, let's get those cars on the track at HMP. That'd be awesome. That would be fun.
The quick little story. I'll let you guys go. The last time I was at Houston, my sister was still running I guess they were NASCAR late models at the time down there, and my dad had built a car. I think originally as a backup car for her, and we went down, and that was the only time I got to see her run a late model actually. And we 2 trucks and trailers, down from the Fort Worth area, and did the whole thing. And I got in on Friday, and ran that car. Just made a few laps in practice in that car that my dad had, and my dad actually he ended up racing. I think they had some electrical issues before the race started, but I thought I was going to get to see my dad race my sister. So I think, that track though, I mean, just that place, it's just when you grow up running at those places, I mean, it means a lot to me to be able to see what that place has been able to do recently and some of the traction that y'all have going down there, because I always, I'm always like, what's going on in Houston? What are they going to do down there? And my sister ran there a lot. So that's exciting. And definitely, if we could ever make anything like that happen, and I could find a open weekend, I would be game for that.
Oh man, we would love that.
That could be lots of fun right there.
That'd be a whole lot of fun. So we'll work on that. We'll hopefully be able to get that put together. Well, Blake, man, we'll be down there. We'll come find you. Man, I like the direction you guys are going. If Martinsville was any indication, I think 19-19. It's
that's a good combination
there.
there.
If I were a betting man, I think I'd go that direction.
I like it. That's where my money's at.
Absolutely. I love it, man. Blake Harris, have a good evening, man. We'll catch you down here. It's going to be a fun weekend.
You guys are going to come up to the track and see us?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. We will be there early Saturday. We'll come find you.
Swing by. We'll be all smiles, I promise.
Sweet deal, my brother. Sweet deal. Sounds like a plan. Appreciate the time, dude. Thanks for letting us cut into your private time. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
All right, dude. Take care.
All right, bye.
Blake Harris, the man right there. And
that's good.
That 19 car, it's going to take – they've got so much momentum. And
they really do.
And what he said right there about with Martin – I mean, you see Truex. Truex goes into another mode right about now, and he's there, and I mean, he's just eclipsing things that like we talked about, the whole thing with the can't win on the short track. Well, he's kind of crushed that one.
The only problem with Truex, and this is not a bad thing or anything, is that, remember when he used to wax everybody's ass and nobody got mad?
Yeah.
Well, now he's past that point where he's done it so many times, the fans might turn on him just a little.
Yeah.
But every time he wins, it's like you just feel good for the guy.
Yeah. The only thing, and Blake touched on that, the only thing that I worry about with them is getting themselves, and of course this will be at Homestead, getting themselves in a position where they can't control what will happen. You know, if somebody gets into them, cut on a restart, because these restarts are so intense, and we saw it again yesterday. You know, if that happens, I think that the outside stuff could be what would hamper them from winning that championship. But just think about this. So we talk about it all the time on this show. You know, Toyota doesn't have quite as many teams as Ford and GM, but if you get 3 of them in, if you get 3 of the 7? We didn't
get a chance to ask Blake this, and he may not even know. To me, that's too much tension.
Oh,
I mean, within the walls, I think that's why, you know, the Joey Logano thing last year, the Big 3 and me, made so much sense and worked so good for him, because I think the other 3 just kept concentrating on each other, thinking that they only had to outrun the other.
Yeah.
And then here comes Logano just kind of sneaking in. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like if you had 3 Gibbs cars and somebody else.
And I still think that Logano is that wild card. I think if he get, I love the impersonation by Denny Hamlin. That was pretty damn good. That was pretty damn good. But the whole thing is, and this is Logano. He does his stuff. You see all of that yesterday. He's got Denny Hamlin all worked up, or you know, to Denny's credit, he wasn't as worked up as, so he's fought, you know, quote unquote fought. You know, he fought Danica. You know, so he's been mixed up. But this Logano Hamlin thing, you trace this back, this has some really, really bad blood.
But the Gibbs guys and the Penske guys have never got along.
No, I know.
At least in this current configuration.
And I really think that if this plays, Denny Hamlin was the guy that I thought at the beginning of the year that he was going to be due. But the more that I look at this, and not just because we just talked to the car chief of the 19 car, but those guys are pretty damn unstoppable right about now. And Kyle Busch, we talked about that. Whatever's going on there, something's not right there. So I think far and away, unless you get a Harvick that sneaks in, Harvick could come to life at Texas. We talked about that. Chase Elliott could win Texas. Chase Elliott could win Phoenix. I don't know. But
Chase was fast.
Yeah,
I mean, a lot of these guys were fast at TMS. And if it's like when the race ended yesterday, I told Elizabeth, I said, you know, I have not been this giddy to go to a TMS fall race in a long time because the race we went to in the spring was probably the best TMS race in a long time.
It was.
And Sunday night is just going to get ramped up even more.
Yeah, and they're putting the peanut butter and jelly down on the track to bring in those grooves and all that. And it's I think we see more fireworks.
Yeah,
we see
I think
more
so.
fireworks.
I think so.
Speaking of TMS, lots to do there. Talked to Eddie Gossage on Friday. They're going to have bullfighting on Sunday morning.
Oh, wow.
They've got an area set up for bullfighting right there.
And it's probably in the Xfinity garage, I think.
No, it's actually, I think it's out in the Midway, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
I have to go back and listen to that. He talked about that. But you've got that. If you're a dirt fan, you hate NASCAR, well, they got dirt.
Sprint cars.
They got the sprint cars there for you. Tony Stewart goes into the Hall of Fame on Saturday, so that'll be cool. Coda's here. Formula One's at Coda this weekend, so you've got that. If you're a casual race fan, you can make your way out there and listen to Imagine Dragons and Pink and all these other people that are going to be out there.
And then have some cars run around. Yeah.
Well, and then the other part about it is that something that you sent me this morning that we saw, Tony Stewart on the track at Coda coming up on Thursday at noon.
Yeah, Thursday he does that, and then he flies to Fort Worth to do the sprint car that night. So I think that, I don't want to say that's a sign of things to come, but that should definitely get everybody excited in NASCAR.
Yeah.
Because if anybody can drive a lap at Coda in a Cup-style car, it's Tony Stewart.
And folks, don't get too worked up. Don't get too excited about anything. I mean, again, this is just, we talked about the next gen car and the testing and everything there. This is just
is a promotion.
We haven't seen a stock car on that track.
This is the best thing. This is the closest thing you get to a cross promotion, especially with this. It makes sense.
They've got a team there. Yeah, they've got a team there.
It make better logistical stuff if the races weren't on top of each other.
Right.
But this is the closest thing you get to a NASCAR and a Formula One crossover because of the Haas connection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you get to see that. And again, I think looking big picture moving forward is if there's going to be, Eddie Gossage is a very powerful man, with everything that he's done and his position, not only as president at TMS, but just his position in NASCAR.
In the industry,
the industry, yeah. He's an industry leader. But, I mean, to get Cup here, that's going to be far-fetched. But a truck, an Xfinity, all of that, I mean, maybe we see some sort of doubleheader here with IndyCar. I don't know what we see. But this is just that beginning ground. Remember, 2022 is when everything is really going to get dusted up a little bit and things are going to really change. 2021 is when all that starts to happen again. This is just to see if it would work.
Because I don't know if Tony Stewart up there with the two-seater at COTA is going to be the same thing as the demo run, if you will, of Newgarden testing the IndyCar.
Right.
Because there's a whole hell of a lot better shot at the IndyCars running the Roval than there is for a Cup race coming to COTA.
And these all parallel together. I mean, this is just smart, whether it be, IMS or COTA, SHR, you do this. And it's kind of like, when you have a fire and you kind of poke the fire and it brings up the embers and everything. That's what we're really seeing here with Newgarden on the Roval and with this, what we're going to see on Thursday. It's possibilities. It's exploratory. Everything's exploratory at this point because this industry is going to
go
change.
Flat out.
He's going to be balls to the wall, I guarantee you.
And it's working.
And then balls to the wall that night.
That deal's working because there's a whole hell of a lot more NASCAR fans that are all of a sudden interested in COTA and F1, at least on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, and the other thing that you think about is with the Formula One. I mean, Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, is it locked up?
No, I mean not officially, but it should be.
But the Sunday race. This is more, and again, what we're going to TMS, but obviously we're Austin based, so we're going to do some COTA stuff. We'll tell you that here in just a minute, but. I don't know. I mean, the F1 is more. It's the pageantry. It's the event. It's all of that. It's the music is a big deal, and I love watching F1 there. But
we've watched plenty of races there.
But IndyCar changed all of that. When IndyCar raced there in March, was that March? It was February, whenever it was, March. That added an element to COTA, and I think that's a lot of ticket sales are like they were in 2012 from what I read. And the weather's supposed to be good, which is always really good for them out there. But I think we see that momentum, a lot of that from what we saw with the IndyCar Classic, because folks saw really good competitive racing, and maybe I don't know if we see that on Sunday with the U.S. Grand Prix.
I doubt it.
I don't think so either. But you never know. I mean,
it could be the greatest race of the season. We won't know.
It absolutely could. So we just never know. But get to one of those places. So what we're planning on doing, obviously, we not going to make it to COTA. We'll be at TMS. The Saturday show on the Horn, the noon show, and we're still trying to figure out the actual hour. We'll probably start at noon, trying to figure out if it's going to be 1 or 2 hours. We will broadcast live on the Horn and the Horn app and at hornfm.com from the broadcast center at TMS. So that'll be on the radio, so you won't find that online. We'll do our typical 10:30 RevvedUpSportsShow.com Facebook Live. We'll do that on Sunday.
Yeah, pre-race.
For your pre-race. So it'll be two different ones, one on the radio and one online and one on Facebook Live. What we're looking to do on Saturday is we'll incorporate the COTA, the Formula One, in where our man Stu Myrick, who is a frequent contributor there for the Horn at COTA, we'll have him call in at some point, and we'll get the happenings of what's going on there.
Yeah,
because they'll be practicing and all of that there. So we'll tie it all together on the radio on Saturday, and then Sunday morning we'll go back to our regular venues here and get you your pre-race like we always do.
Yep.
Kind of nice to have different options now.
It's going to be a busy weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're thinking seriously, we do have sponsorship plans for that Saturday thing. If you want to be a part of that extra hour that I'm over here talking about, I'm selling you that hour right now if you want it, and you could possibly want us to advertise your business from Texas Motor Speedway. Email me.
Info at RevvedUpSportsShow.com, because we can make an advertising plan that works for you on a budget that works for you too.
Leave that part out because this is radio. So we can make an advertising plan for you.
That's right. That's right. Wrong radio show.
This one we can make on a budget that works for you too. But it's not that bad. Email if you'd like to be a part of that, because that's 3 to 4 different hits there and readers, whatever it is. So we'll get that put together. The plan is there. So stay tuned to the socials. We'll let you figure out. I'm planning on 2 hours on Saturday.
Yeah.
Planning on 2 hours. And it's just going to be a great weekend to get to one of these places. If you're in Austin, you happen to stumble across this podcast or this live stream, there is no Texas football. And for crying out loud, they need a week off.
I know. I didn't
need a week off.
I didn't go to that game because my father-in-law said that TCU didn't have a chance.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's things there that need to be worked out. Things that need to be worked out, and get that season in order. But it is going to be a very full weekend. Again, Saturday on the radio, 104.9, 101.9, AM 1260, the Horn app, and at hornfm.com. 12 o'clock noon, we'll have Revved Up ATX, and it will be, we'll talk about everything happening there. The Xfinity race is a night race. We won't know the qualifying lineup at that point because that qualifying's late too.
Mm-hmm.
I like that night stuff, especially as it begins to cool off.
And it's daylight savings time.
That's right. Fall back, right?
Yeah, spring forward, fall back.
Fall back. That's always good. Falling back is good. I don't know. And Halloween coming up on Thursday. Whatever you're doing, be safe.
Be safe.
Take care of those kiddos. Don't do anything crazy. If you're going to be out and about partying, do it the responsible way. Don't do anything stupid. Don't take any chances. Don't want to be reading about anybody. Don't want to be reading about any of our friends in the local headlines that they've gone out and gotten in trouble or something bad has happened to them. Don't need that happening. But get Dakota, get the TMS, one of the two. This is a big weekend for Texas because for the Austin area because we can really. We've got the race in the backyard. We've got the race down the road, and no football here.
I mean,
plenty of high school on Friday. By the way, man, things are heating up in high school.
Mm-hmm. That's a whole other first and 10 segment.
Really, really good. We'll do first and 10 segment on Saturday because that's going to be kind of shaky Friday night. But that's all coming up. Stay tuned to the socials. We'll get all that figured out for you.
Yeah. Hashtag Russ at TMS.
That's exactly right. Thanks, Claire Formosa. Hey, Speed 51, the All-American 400 will be there. Check that out if you're not going anywhere else. Thanks to Blake Harris.
That's fun.
Enlightening conversation.
It was
right
great,
there.
wasn't it?
Really, really good stuff. Archives, RevvedUpSportsShow.com, HornFM.com. We'll see you at TMS if you're heading that way. It's going to be a great weekend. Bundle up. It's going to get cool this week. Be nice to someone. You never know what they're going through. You're going to feel better as well afterwards. For Showtime, I'm Rodney. We'll see you. If we don't see you, you'll hear us or see us on Facebook Live. Have a great week, everybody.